San Francisco sues junk food makers, but it's not for health reasons. Man, this is entertaining because it brings back to me the days of living in Seattle. And I remember that when there was an announcement that came out that Seattle was banning plastic straws. And my producer and friend Alex will remember this. I made a video that was me going into a production studio with a syringe. And I'd broken the needle off the syringe. And I took it into the studio and I had a drinking straw. And I tried to find this video. I guess I should have tried to find this. And this one's pretty viral. And I drank water with the straw and said, this is illegal. In Seattle, this is now illegal. But actually, I broke the needle off there on set. That's right. Broke the needle, opened the syringe, and sucked the drink through that. This is legal. And they hand these out. And there's this pretense that this was all for health reasons. And they did the same thing with Happy Meals in Seattle. They banned juice in Happy Meals, like apple juice in the Apple state, in a state where they were pushing wrong sex hormones to kids. That same state was making marijuana available all over the place, and drugs were widely available, but man, they got rid of that juice, but chocolate milk was okay because that's so much better. The city of San Francisco has come out with the first of its kind ban on some foods, and they're going after. There's a lawsuit, and they're suing Big Food. Now, on the front of this, you'd think that me, being the guy who is the body of the temple guy, because I fully believe the body's the temple. So you would think that being that guy, I would take a totally positive view to this, and in one way I do, but it's an utter joke. If you know anything about the streets of San Francisco, I'll explain why this is such a joke in just a second. There's a whole lot of things in our country that the medical establishment, this is the technocratic medical class, the pharma Pharisees, that they pretend are to protect you. For instance, a ban on actual stem cell therapy. If you're going to get stem cell therapy, to say not go get a shoulder surgery when you don't need one, or a back surgery when you don't need one, or you'd like to have the use of your hands back and you don't want to have your tendons scraped because of carpal tunnel, or you're sick of all the numbness, or maybe you have a loved one who has a traumatic brain injury and you prefer not to go the surgical route and the drug route, you want the best stem cells. In America, the stem cells are basically a frozen gas station burrito. At Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, with Renew.Healthcare, these stem cells are taken from donors. They pay for the birth of those women. They monitor the health of the baby, the woman, throughout that process. So what you're getting are the world's best stem cells because they reject 80 to 90% of them. And then they culture the remaining stem cells so they are of the highest possible quality. It's not just the stem cell treatment. It's the IVs, it's the hyperbaric chamber, it's the whole approach. They're the best at this. So if you're suffering from any of these things, or even things that are aesthetic, don't do Botox, do stem cells. Go to Renew.Healthcare. It's RENUE.Healthcare. Elevate your quality of life by elevating your healthcare. It's Renew.Healthcare. Please tell them you're part of the Todd Herman Show family. And it's because I track health and because I'm a geek on this stuff that I looked at this sort of excited. First of its kind lawsuit in San Francisco.
They're on nearly every shelf in nearly every grocery store across the country. Ultra-processed foods now make up over 50% of the American diet.
Our case is about companies who design food to be harmful and addictive.
In San Francisco today, City Attorney David Chu announced the first government lawsuit of its kind against 11 companies that manufacture ultra-processed foods, including breakfast titan Kellogg and beverage maker Coca-Cola, accusing them of using unfair and deceptive marketing to sell food.
We've known for a long time that the ingredients in many of these ultra-processed foods are unhealthy. Why now?
We have all suspected for a long time that food that is not food were likely not good for us, but it took many years for the science to catch up.
Research has linked ultra-processed foods to obesity, type 2 diabetes, and cancer. In a statement, a trade group representing many of the companies named in the lawsuit said there is currently no agreed-upon scientific definition of ultra-processed foods, and that calling them unhealthy is misleading to consumers.
There's a clear definition in California law on what ultra-processed foods are. We look forward to having that discussion in court.
And San Francisco has a history of taking on big business. They previously sued and won multi-million-dollar lawsuits against big tobacco, lead paint, and opioid manufacturers.
Elizabeth Cook, thanks so much.
They have a strong track history of holding them up for money. This is a money play. This is not a health play. This is not a defending the people play. People still smoke in San Francisco. And opioid use, that's the core of this. This is not about health. It may have some health effects. It's about money. They're not going to stop selling the stuff there. They're going to pay the fine. They're going to keep selling the stuff. They're going to label it differently. And this is pay to play. It's time for you to pony up. You notice some things that are absent here. Did you see, for instance, any of the fake meat stuff on there? Like the Miracle Burger? You talk about processing. You take a bunch of plants made to appear to be a hamburger, including leaking fake blood. That's ultra processed. That's not going to be in these lawsuits because, of course, this is narrative keeping. But it's the juxtaposition of junk food versus what they're doing to people's bodies. If you ever want to have some fun, go search the phrase San Francisco zombie. And what you're going to encounter are people who have been put under the boot of the opioid crisis. And let's not forget how this began. Now, people have always wanted to change their mind chemistry. You can go all the way back to Edgar Allan Poe. He was really, really into that. He was probably stoned when he wrote some of his best work. You can go way, way back in human history. People have always wanted to do this stuff. The first time they figured out that fermented liquids did this for you, people sought this. There's always this want to goof with their minds. But the opioid crisis was helped along by a whole bunch of factors. One of them that's forgotten and no one's going to get sued is because the opioid makers invented something called pain as the fifth vital sign. Okay, do you believe that pain is an indication, it's a vital sign like your heart rate, your brain activity, your respiration, your pulse, as I said, heart rate? Do you believe that's a vital sign? Now, certainly we all experience pain. And yes, if you're alive, you're going to experience pain. And if you're dead, there's no pain. So you could defend it that way. But what they did to doctors is they said, we're going to now rate you on how much pain your patients feel. So this led to some insane things. This happened in San Diego, California, that a guy had gotten on and had an operation on his arm. And he went home and he kept complaining that he was in pain. So the nurses kept upping his doses of opioids. And every time they upped it, he came back and said, I'm in pain. Well, they knew that their ratings depended upon no pain, because pain is a vital sign. If your patient's in pain, that means your patient is dying. This is what the opioid manufacturers sold through states' Medicare and Medicaid programs. This was the federal government installing this. It was a marketing plan. This guy finally, a doctor came along and said, what are we doing? This is a minor arm operation. What are we doing? Get this guy in here. So they brought him in. It turned out the bandages on his arm hadn't been changed. They were too tight, and his arm was becoming gangrenous. It was cutting off the blood. It was killing his arm. They were solving this by taking the pain away, because that's what they were told to do. There was also the fact that Barack Hussein Obama and the people who ran him decided to allow the Taliban to ship opioids into our country over, across, and through the southern border. And this is detailed in a story called Project Cassandra, where Barack Obama decided to stop the indictment of Taliban members and narco-terrorists in Mexico, to stop it, even though it was ready to go. There were 7 named intelligence sources who came out and said, this is going on now. Obama froze that, stopped it, didn't allow it to continue. That brought in a whole bunch of availability, which brought the prices down. Then, of course, the open borders and these precursor chemicals coming in from China. So you had big business, you had big government, you had big cartel, you had big politics combined to create this flood of opioids within the country. So there's a lot of people who are now on the streets because they got prescription medicine and they liked it. This happened to a friend of mine whose life was taken by opioids because he liked what they did to him after a surgery. And it was a surgery that was just sadly botched. So if you search the phrase San Francisco zombie, you're likely to come across videos like this.
Y'all got to clean all this up?
This is the utter trash.
Bad, huh?
I used to walk that
Every day?
road to work every day.
Is it hard to clean up?
What he's cleaning up is human
Every
excrement.
day.
And what you see
Look at
are people kneeling, people on their sides. A guy looks like he's crawling, and then there's a guy crouching in a very familiar zombie pose. These people are unable to move themselves in any other way. And if you look at that, you look at the fact that there are apps in San Francisco that are designed to do one thing, which is to warn you of human excrement. So when you're walking to work, you use the app. Hey, there's a pile of it here. Don't step in it here. This is a really well-downloaded app within San Francisco. That's not ultra-processed foods. But the city attorney of San Francisco is not going to do anything about this. He's not going to go sue the opioid manufacturers for pain as the fifth vital sign because that went through the state of California. He's not going to make a statement against this open-air drug use because that goes against the theory of California that they're reducing harm. But he's going to go after junk food manufacturers, but not to stop it, just to get payment. And what are they going to do with that money? What do you think San Francisco is going to do with that money? And again, go search the phrase zombie San Francisco, and you'll end up with videos like this. This is outside of someone's home office. So this is a guy leaning against someone's door, barely able to stand, and tell me that does not look like a zombie from The Walking Dead. Now, you have to leave through that door. Your kids have to leave through that door, and this guy's out there barely hanging on, barely able to hang his body against the door. What we're seeing in San Francisco in this lawsuit, yeah, it's first of its kind. And yes, these foods are very addictive. And yes, in that way, this is very, very good. But when they get their settlement, because these food companies are going to have to settle, there is a law in California that defines ultra-processed foods. It's not hard to define. You could take the steps for this. It resolves itself into simple sugars. What you eat when you eat, for instance, modern bread, it's not bread. All of it's simple sugars and starches. It doesn't have protein in it. And where it does, the protein resolves to sugars. It is filled with chemicals. All of the nutrition's been stripped out. That's what enriched flour means. It means putting back some of the enrichment that's been taken out of these processes. In the olden days, when you made bread, you made it from heritage seed. Do you know that most bread was actually sourdough? Do you know that most of it went through that process of fermentation? Do you know that it took days for it to age? Do you know that you had to really chew it? If you ever look at any of the heritage breads made with heritage grains, you actually had to chew that. And people were able to subsist on that. There were people able to go out and do hard labor using bread like that. What you eat now is sugars and it's starches. And you chew it once. So there's easy ways to define the fact that this is ultra-processed. There's also easy ways to define what San Francisco is going to do with this money. They're going to bankroll this. What they're going to do is sue food manufacturers, come back and pay more people to hand out more needles, to go clean up more human feces, to go out and pretend that they're doing harm avoidance or harm reduction. So they sue the food manufacturers so that they don't have to go out and face the heroin problems that they're allowing to fester on their streets. And if you think this is just an issue with adults, remember this. Drug cartels don't have morality. Drug cartels are more than happy to sell drugs to kids, and the easiest way to do that is not to take their money, it's to take their bodies through trafficking. Because guess what? You can only sell a drug once. You can sell a human body 10 to 20 times a day.